If you ever tried setting up Amazon Cognito for simple authentication and you feel lost, this is the right place for you. Cognito is powerful, but also, well, it's huge. Tons of settings, options everywhere, and honestly, it's easy to get lost or miss something crucial, and especially if you're new to this. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the essential configuration you absolutely need to get right before moving forward. Think of this as your foundation. If you don't configure these things correctly, none of the next steps will work smoothly. Take in mind that all the documentations and assets to follow along are in the series GitHub repository, linked down in the description. My name is Juan Simon, developer at Xinitry, and this is part of my From Zero to Production on AWS series, where I don't give you tutorials, I give you real-world solutions to real-world problems. Amazon Cognito handles user authentication and authorization for your web application. With user pools, you can easily and securely add sign-up and sign-in functionality to your web apps. With identity pools, federated identities, your apps can get temporary credentials that grant users access to specific AWS resources, whether the users are anonymous or are signed in. In this video, we are going to focus on Cognito User Pool, which is a user directory for web app authentication and authorization. A user pool adds layers of additional features for security, identity federation, app integration, and customization of the user experience. You can, for example, verify that your user sessions are from trusted sources. You can combine the Amazon Cognito directory with an external identity provider such as Google, Meta, Amazon, or Apple. From the perspective of our app, Amazon Cognito User Pool is an OpenID Connect identity provider. Let's take a look at what we are going to build. A user is going to request our website and ask for authentication. Our website will redirect the user to the Cognito Managed Authentication page, where our user is going to register or submit their credentials. After that, Cognito will automatically redirect the user back to our website, including a JWT token that we will use to decide which part of our app the user will have access to. Understanding the authentication flow is very important, and it's well documented in the Amazon Cognito Developer Guide. However, since we're going to use a simplified version, I will explain it to you in details. So we have a user, which is going to visit our web app for login. At that point, the user will be redirected to the Amazon Cognito Managed Login page. The user will enter the credentials that Cognito service will validate. If successful, the token endpoint will issue the JWT token. This is possible because we will configure Cognito to use the implicit grant instead of the authorization token. At this point, the user gets redirected back to the web application with the JWT token in the URL. Now the application can read it and decide how to use it. So let's go and set up Cognito in the console. The first thing that we have to do right here over in the console is search for Cognito service and click on the Get Started or Create a New User Pool. In this case, I'm going to call it Xinitry User Pool. For the purpose of our application, we're going to require the user to enter an email address, and we'll also require the family name and the given name of the user. For the return URL, we have set up a CloudFront distribution linked to an S3 bucket where a static website is hosted, just for demonstration purposes, but this is part of another video. So for us, it's going to be demo.xinitry.com, but for you is the link that you want Cognito to redirect after a user is authenticated. For this part, just skip it and go to the overview. Right here, go into the App Client section and select the Automatic Generated App Client. Click on Edit, and here we're going to allow every authentication flow, so we're able to get our credentials via a script later on in the next video. Now head over to the login pages and click Edit here as well. What we're going to do here is to change the grant types from authorization token to implicit grant, so we are able to get our tokens directly in the URL. After that, go to the connection scopes and enable the user admin and profile scopes so we get the complete user information back within our tokens. What we're going to do now is to go into the login page, which is basically the Cognito managed login authentication page, where we can either sign in with an existing account or create a brand new one, which is exactly what we're going to do now. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a basic John Doe email, and for the name it's going to be obviously John, and for the last name obviously Doe. For the password, I'm going to use a very unsecure password, in this case test1234. Please keep in mind that this is only for demonstration purposes, so we recommend not using this type of passwords. What's going to happen right now is that Cognito is going to ask us to verify the email address, but since I am not the owner of the John Doe email, I am going to go to the Cognito consoles, head over to users, and search for the just brand new created user. As you can see, its status is unconfirmed, so just click on it, click on actions and confirm the account. If you're using your personal email, you don't need to do this. You just go into your inbox and copy and paste the verification code into Cognito, which should verify your account. Now let's sign into it by just entering the email and the created password and click on continue. As you can see, we are redirected automatically to the demo.xinitry.com page, which shows us logged in successfully and shows us the user data with the email, name, last name, and the tokens just right below. This is possible because all this data is getting stored in the browser cookies, which we can see if we open the developer tools, go into the console tab and type in document.cookie. That means if we refresh or reopen the page, we are still being able to see the data. If we now log out and refresh or reopen the page, you will notice that there is no longer user information displayed on the page. That is because the user cookies got cleared. Now let me show you how to get this done in a localhost environment. Head over to our GitHub that we have linked down in the description. Here you will find the whole guide of the structure of the repository, and if you scroll down into the episode index and click on the second episode's branch, you will find the needed code for this. Here you also will find a README file explaining step by step how the code works and what each line of it does. But this is not necessary right now, because I will explain it to you in a moment. So if you scroll up and head over to the Cognito login page example folder, you will find an index in a script.js file, which you can copy over into VS Code. Let me show you how it looks like. Here I got the complete repository clone. If we go over into the index.html file, you will see it's a very basic thing. It's just a couple of buttons and divs to show the user information. We also got linked scripts such as jQuery and the AWS SDK to be able to use the Cognito functions inside of our web app. If we look at our script.js file, at the very first line, you will have a Cognito login URL variable where you have to paste in your own managed Cognito authentication page link. After that, you have to configure a region, which has to be the exact same as the one where your user pool is living. In our case, US is 1. Now let's take a look at each portion of this code. First, we have a parse token from the URL function. What this does is basically gets the tokens from the URL that Cognito sends and stores them into variables. Next, we have some functions to set, retrieve, and delete some cookies, which are basically used to store the user data. We also got some simple functions to display information into the HTML. And now one of the most important functions, fetching the Cognito user. Here we are passing in the access token that we previously got from the URL. And we are using the getUser function from the Cognito AWS SDK, passing in the access token. If it fails, we're going to display a failed to retrieve user data message. Otherwise, we're going to log in the client into our app. For that, we're going to display a simple logged in successfully message and store the user data that Cognito returns into a variable that we then can store in the browser's cookies. Now let's talk about the handle login flow function. This function starts by calling the parse token from URL function to get the access ID and refresh token from it. After that, it checks if there is an access and ID token present. If so, it's going to use the setCookie function to store those into the browser's cookies. After that, it will take the access token and fetch the Cognito users with it. While fetching, it will remove the tokens from the URL so they are not longer visible for the user. And this is important to do just for security reasons. Now the only thing that's left to do is to update our UI to display a logout button instead of a login button. If it's the case that the tokens are not in the URL, we are going to check if they are already stored into the cookies. If so, we're going to fetch the Cognito users with the stored token and update our UI. The last thing to do is, once our document is loaded, call the handle login form and add some event listeners to the login button to redirect to the Cognito login page. When the user clicks the logout button, it should clear all the user data and update the UI to show a logout status. Now let me quickly show you how you can get your Cognito managed login page to redirect to your own localhost environment. For that, go to the Login Pages tab, click on Edit, and at the callback URL, change it to something like http://localhost and your port. In our case, it's located under port 3000 under a folder called Cognito example page. Now we can go, save, and view our login page. Now copy the link and paste it into the first line of the script.js file. This way, our local page will redirect to the Cognito sign-in page when we click the login button. If we now view this in the browser, we will see that when we get into our localhost and click into the login button, we will get redirected to the Amazon Cognito managed login page, where we can log in, and that will redirect us back to our localhost, where we could see all the user information and a logged in successfully message. Okay, that's it. If you're building on AWS and run into issues like this, consider subscribing or just leave a comment below.